In what can only be described as one of the most humiliating naval disasters in modern American military history, 12 United States warships are currently trapped in the Red Sea, surrounded by Iranian missile batteries and Houthi naval mines, while Saudi Arabia has delivered a stunning blow to Washington by refusing to provide assistance. Trump's bold promises of Middle Eastern dominance have crumbled into a nightmare scenario where America's mighty naval force finds itself cornered in waters it once controlled absolutely. What you're about to discover will expose the catastrophic failure of American strategy and reveal how Iran's patient, calculated approach has turned the Red Sea into a deadly trap for the world's most expensive military machine. The USS Dwight D. Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group, accompanied by 11 supporting vessels, including 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, 3 Ticonderoga-class cruisers, and 6 support ships valued collectively at over $18 billion, now sits paralyzed in the southern Red Sea. Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps naval units have positioned advanced anti-ship missile batteries along the Yemeni coast, while Houthi forces have deployed sophisticated naval mines across critical choke points. But here's what the mainstream media desperately doesn't want you to understand. This isn't a sudden crisis. This is the culmination of a brilliantly orchestrated Iranian strategy that has been years in the making, and Trump walked straight into it. Before we expose exactly how Iran engineered this devastating trap, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this channel is the only place you'll get the real analysis that Washington and Tel Aviv are desperately trying to suppress. We're building a community of informed viewers who see beyond the propaganda, and your support helps us continue bringing you the truth. Now, let's break down the most significant shift in Middle Eastern power dynamics in a generation. The crisis began 48 hours ago when Iranian intelligence detected unusual American naval movement suggesting preparations for strikes against Houthi positions in Yemen. Rather than responding defensively, Iranian military planners activated contingency protocols developed specifically for this scenario. Within 12 hours, mobile missile launchers carrying advanced Zulfiqar anti-ship ballistic missiles with a range of 700 kilometers and terminal guidance systems capable of defeating Aegis radar moved into predetermined positions along 200 kilometers of Yemeni coastline. Simultaneously, Houthi naval units deployed smart mines equipped with acoustic and magnetic sensors across the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the 18-mile-wide choke point connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden. The American vessels suddenly found themselves in a kill box. Any attempt to transit southward through Bab el-Mandeb would trigger the minefields. Any attempt to launch strikes against coastal positions would invite devastating missile barrages against ships with nowhere to maneuver in the confined waters of the Red Sea. And any attempt to sail northward toward the Suez Canal would expose the fleet to even more concentrated Iranian and Houthi firepower positioned along the entire eastern coast. The trap was complete, and the Pentagon knew it. But the real shock came when Trump's administration frantically contacted Saudi Arabia requesting emergency assistance. Washington needed Saudi Arabia to provide coastal access for minesweeping operations, permission to use Saudi air bases for expanded air cover, and ideally, Saudi naval forces to create a corridor for the trapped American vessels. The Saudi response was delivered through diplomatic channels within hours, and it represents a geopolitical earthquake Riyadh refused, not with diplomatic hedging or careful explanations, but with a clear, unambiguous refusal to assist American military operations against Iranian-aligned forces. To understand why this refusal is so devastating, you need to grasp the transformation of Saudi-Iranian relations over the past 18 months. While American media focused on superficial headlines, Saudi Arabia and Iran have been quietly constructing a comprehensive security understanding brokered by China. This isn't just about diplomatic normalization. This is a fundamental realignment of Middle Eastern power structures that directly challenges American hegemony. The Saudis have calculated that their future security and economic prosperity depend more on stable relations with Iran than on an increasingly unreliable American security guarantee. The numbers tell the story. Saudi Arabia's trade with China has exploded to over $87 billion annually. Iranian-Saudi agreements on oil production coordination, maritime security, and regional de-escalation have created mutual economic benefits worth hundreds of billions. Meanwhile, American security commitments have proven hollow repeatedly. Washington failed to respond meaningfully when Iranian-aligned forces struck Saudi oil facilities in 2019, failed to provide adequate protection during Houthi missile attacks, and failed to deliver on promises of advanced weapons systems. The Saudis learned the painful lesson that American protection comes with unreliable strings attached while delivering questionable actual security. So, when Trump's team came begging for assistance in extracting American warships from an Iranian trap, Saudi Arabia saw an opportunity to demonstrate its new strategic independence. Riyadh's refusal sends unmistakable messages to Washington, Tehran, and the entire region. The era of automatic Saudi alignment with American military adventures has ended. The kingdom will prioritize its own security interests over American demands. And most importantly, Saudi Arabia recognizes that Iran has become the ascendant regional power capable of delivering consequences that America cannot prevent. The technical military situation facing the trapped American vessels illuminates the sophistication of Iranian planning. The Zulfiqar missiles positioned along the Yemeni coast represent a quantum leap in regional military capabilities. Unlike the crude Scud variants that characterized earlier conflicts, these weapons feature maneuverable re-entry vehicles, terminal guidance systems using both radar and optical sensors, and launch platforms with shoot-and-scoot capability that makes preemptive strikes nearly impossible. Each missile costs Iran approximately $1.5 million to produce. Each American attempt to intercept them using SM-3 or SM-6 missiles costs between $4 and $9 million per interceptor, with success rates under combat conditions estimated at 60 to 70%. Now do the mathematics. Iran can afford to launch sustained volleys that quickly overwhelm American defensive systems through simple economic attrition. If Iranian forces launch 20 Zulfiqar missiles at the carrier strike group, American vessels must fire 30 to 40 interceptors to ensure adequate protection, consuming between $120 and $360 million in ammunition, while Iran expends $30 million. And this calculation doesn't even account for the mines, the drone swarms, or the fast attack craft that supplement Iranian anti-access capabilities. The mines deployed across Bab el-Mandeb deserve special attention because they represent Iranian ingenuity under sanctions pressure. Western intelligence analysts initially dismissed Houthi mining capabilities as primitive. That assessment has been catastrophically revised. The mines currently blocking American egress are Iranian-designed EM-52 rocket-propelled variants that rest on the seabed until activated by acoustic signatures matching specific vessel types. Once triggered, they rise rapidly and detonate beneath the keel, precisely where modern warships are most vulnerable. Clearing these mines requires specialized minesweeping vessels and weeks of painstaking operations, time the trapped American force doesn't have while sitting exposed to missile attack. The American ships attempted to launch electronic warfare countermeasures and deployed aerial reconnaissance to map mine locations. Iranian forces responded by activating GPS jamming systems that disrupted American navigation and drone operations across a 300-kilometer radius. The Eisenhower Strike Group found its situational awareness degraded, its communication networks compromised, and its offensive options constrained by threats from multiple vectors simultaneously. Pentagon planners found themselves facing a nightmare scenario with no good options. Option 1, attempt to blast through the minefield and transit Bab el-Mandeb under fire, accepting potentially catastrophic casualties and the humiliation of American warships limping into port damaged by supposedly inferior adversaries. Option 2, remain in position while negotiating safe passage, essentially admitting that American naval power cannot operate in waters dominated by Iranian Iranian anti-access systems. Option 3, launch massive strikes against Iranian and Houthi positions, hoping to suppress threats enough to create an escape corridor, risking regional war and potential loss of vessels if the strikes prove insufficient. All three options are politically and militarily unacceptable, which is precisely why Iranian planners designed this trap. They understand American psychology, the obsession with maintaining invincibility perception, the political constraints preventing acceptance of visible casualties, and the institutional resistance to acknowledging strategic defeat. Iran created a situation where every American choice leads to humiliation, and every day of paralysis demonstrates the hollowness of American power projection. Trump's response to the crisis has made everything exponentially worse. Rather than acknowledging the strategic disaster and pursuing careful diplomatic extraction, Trump issued bombastic threats via social media, promising devastating retaliation against Iran if American vessels are attacked. These threats landed with a thud because everyone, including American military commanders, knows they're empty. Launching massive strikes against Iranian territory would invite retaliatory attacks against American bases across the region, against Israeli infrastructure, and against the oil facilities of Gulf monarchies that America supposedly protects. The economic consequences would be catastrophic. Oil prices would spike beyond $150 per barrel. Global shipping insurance costs would skyrocket. Financial markets would collapse under uncertainty. Iran called Trump's bluff immediately. Supreme Leader Khamenei's office released a statement noting that American vessels are welcome to leave peacefully once they cease threatening Yemeni sovereignty and Iranian security. The statement emphasized Iran's defensive posture while making clear that any American aggression will be met with overwhelming response across multiple fronts. The message was delivered calmly, confidently, and with the full knowledge that Iran holds the superior position. The humiliation deepened when American officials began reaching out to European and Asian partners seeking diplomatic intervention with Iran. These appeals revealed desperation and strategic bankruptcy. European nations, already frustrated with American unilateralism and increasingly aligned with independent foreign policy objectives, offered polite sympathy but no substantive assistance. They understand that Iranian grievances are legitimate and that American military posturing has created unnecessary crises. Asian powers, including China and India, simply noted their neutral position while continuing profitable economic relationships with Iran. The crisis illuminated the collapse of American alliance structures across the Middle East. When Washington needed help most, it discovered that its traditional partners have developed alternative security arrangements that no longer center on American preferences. The Saudis said no. The Emiratis maintained studied silence. Even Israel, usually eager to support American confrontation with Iran, recognized that this disaster was unsalvageable and chose to distance itself from Trump's failure. But let's examine why this humiliation runs even deeper than immediate military considerations. The United States has spent trillions of dollars over decades building military infrastructure, supposedly guaranteeing American control of global maritime choke points. The entire post-Cold War security architecture rested on the assumption that American naval power could access any waters, defeat any adversary, and enforce American will anywhere on the planet. That assumption just shattered against Iranian asymmetric capabilities, costing a tiny fraction of American expenditures. Think about this equation. Iran's entire military budget is approximately $20 billion annually. The 12 trapped American vessels represent $18 billion just in hulls and equipment, not counting the aircraft, munitions, personnel, and operational costs. The Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group operating for 1 year costs American taxpayers approximately $6 billion. Yet this enormously expensive force now sits paralyzed by Iranian weapon systems that cost perhaps $500 million total to develop, deploy, and operate. This is the essence of asymmetric warfare, using intelligence, geography, and technological creativity to neutralize opponent advantages through strategies that bypass their strengths. Iranian military doctrine has evolved specifically to counter American power projection. While the United States built expensive platforms designed for global reach and technological supremacy, Iran developed relatively cheap, numerous systems optimized for regional denial. Iranian strategists studied American vulnerabilities, the dependence on forward bases, the concentration of value in expensive platforms, the political constraints preventing acceptance of casualties, and the logistical challenges of sustained operations far from home. Every Iranian weapons system, every tactical innovation, and every strategic deployment is designed to exploit these specific weaknesses. The Houthi forces executing Iranian strategy in Yemen demonstrate this asymmetric approach perfectly. These are not conventional military units matching American capabilities system for system. They are disciplined, motivated fighters employing guerrilla tactics, underground networks, and Iranian-supplied technology to create disproportionate effects. They cannot defeat American forces in direct conventional engagement, so they avoid such engagements entirely. Instead, they strike when and where they possess advantages, using terrain, surprise, and specialized weapons to inflict costs exceeding their own expenditures. This crisis also exposes the myth of precision strike technology as military panacea. American forces rely heavily on precision-guided munitions, supposedly allowing surgical strikes that minimize collateral damage while eliminating specific targets. But precision guidance systems require accurate target intelligence, effective reconnaissance, and uncontested operational environment. Iranian electronic warfare, GPS jamming, and decentralized military structures have degraded all three prerequisites. American forces cannot reliably locate mobile missile launchers hidden among civilian infrastructure, cannot maintain consistent target tracking in jammed electromagnetic environment, and cannot operate reconnaissance assets effectively under contested airspace. The economic dimensions of this crisis deserve careful examination because they reveal systemic advantages favoring Iranian strategy. Every day, the American vessels remain trapped, operational costs accumulate, fuel consumption, personnel expenses, equipment maintenance, and readiness degradation mount continuously. The Navy must maintain elevated alert status, straining crews and wearing down machinery. Support vessels must provide continuous resupply, straining logistics networks. Aircraft must maintain combat air patrols, consuming flight hours and requiring extensive maintenance. All of this costs millions of dollars daily while achieving absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, Iranian forces sit comfortably in prepared positions on land, consuming minimal resources while maintaining full effectiveness. The missile batteries require only occasional movement and basic maintenance. The minefields, once deployed, need no further attention. Houthi fighters rotate through positions near their homes, sustained by local support networks. The cost differential is staggering. Iran spends perhaps $100,000 daily maintaining this blockade, while America hemorrhages $10 to $15 million daily just keeping the trapped vessels operationally ready. Extend this dynamic across months and the mathematics become devastating. Iran can maintain this pressure indefinitely at sustainable cost. America faces impossible choices: accept the mounting expenses and readiness degradation, accept the humiliation of negotiated withdrawal, or accept the risks of escalation that could trigger regional catastrophe. Every option represents strategic defeat, which is exactly what Iranian planners intended. Trump's political situation has become equally untenable. He campaigned on promises of Middle Eastern dominance and American military supremacy. His withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal and imposition of maximum pressure sanctions were supposed to bring Iran to its knees, forcing capitulation to American demands. Instead, Iran has demonstrated resilience, strategic patience, and military creativity that has turned American pressure into Iranian advantage. Trump's base expects decisive action, but military commanders know that decisive action in this scenario means potential catastrophe. His administration is paralyzed between political imperatives and military realities. The contrast with Iranian leadership couldn't be more stark. While Trump issues impotent threats on social media, Iranian decision-makers calmly execute long-term strategies developed over years of careful planning. They anticipated this scenario, prepared the capabilities, positioned the assets, and trained the personnel specifically for this contingency. When the opportunity arrived, they executed flawlessly, trapping American forces in a carefully constructed strategic and tactical box with no good exits. This patience versus impulsiveness dynamic appears throughout the crisis. Iran spent years building relationships with Houthi forces, transferring technology, providing training, and developing operational coordination. American policymakers ignored these developments or dismissed them as insignificant. Iran carefully mapped American decision-making processes, identified psychological vulnerabilities, and designed responses exploiting those weaknesses. American intelligence agencies focused on tactical details while missing strategic preparations. Iran positioned assets only when intelligence confirmed American vulnerability. American forces responded predictably to perceived threats, walking directly into prepared traps. The broader geopolitical implications extend far beyond the immediate crisis. American inability to extract its vessels from the Red Sea without Iranian acquiescence demonstrates the limits of military power when confronted with determined, intelligent adversaries willing to accept extended confrontation. This lesson will not be lost on other nations questioning American security guarantees or considering resistance to American preferences. If Iran can trap the world's most powerful navy in the Red Sea, what does that suggest about American ability to defend Taiwan, deter Russian moves in Eastern Europe, or enforce preferences in Latin America or Africa? The multipolar world that American policymakers feared is arriving faster than anticipated, and this crisis marks a significant acceleration. China, Russia, and Iran have constructed alternative security architectures that explicitly challenge American hegemony. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Belt and Road Initiative, and various regional security agreements represent coordinated efforts to create options beyond American-dominated systems. Saudi Arabia's refusal to assist American military operations despite decades of alliance demonstrates that even traditional American partners are hedging their bets and developing alternative arrangements. The economic consequences of collapsed American naval dominance will ripple through global systems for years. If the United States cannot guarantee free passage through critical maritime choke points, insurance costs will rise, shipping routes will adjust, and alternative infrastructure will receive massive investment. China's land-based Belt and Road connections suddenly look more attractive if maritime routes face Iranian interdiction capabilities. Russian northern sea routes become viable alternatives if traditional choke points prove unreliable. American economic leverage built on controlling global shipping dissolves if that control proves illusory. The crisis also accelerates American allies' pursuit of strategic autonomy. European nations already frustrated with American unilateralism now have concrete evidence that American security guarantees may prove ineffective when actually tested. This will fuel European defense integration, increase military spending on capabilities suited for European priorities rather than American preferences, and greater willingness to diverge from American foreign policy positions. Japan, South Korea, and other Asian allies will similarly recalculate the value of American extended deterrence if that deterrence cannot even extract American vessels from the Red Sea. As this analysis reaches its conclusion, the trapped American vessels remain paralyzed, Trump's threats ring hollow, Saudi Arabia maintains its refusal to assist, and Iranian forces calmly wait with full confidence in their strategic position. This is not how American military adventures are supposed to unfold. The script calls for overwhelming American force rapidly defeating inferior adversaries, achieving objectives, and withdrawing victorious. Instead, we're witnessing a humiliating stalemate where American power proves insufficient to overcome Iranian strategy despite massive expenditure and technological advantages. The most important lesson transcends this specific crisis. Military hardware alone does not determine strategic outcomes. Intelligence, patience, intelligence, creativity, and understanding of opponent psychology matter enormously. Iran has demonstrated all four attributes, while American decision makers relied solely on material superiority that proved inadequate when confronted with asymmetric approaches specifically designed to neutralize those advantages. This is the essence of modern warfare, not tank battles or naval engagements decided by tonnage and firepower, but strategic competition where patient, intelligent adversaries exploit systemic weaknesses in seemingly superior opponents. The mainstream media will continue portraying this crisis through frameworks comfortable to American audiences: temporary setback, complex regional dynamics, unfortunate circumstances. But you now understand the deeper reality. This represents a fundamental shift in global power dynamics where American military dominance has met its match in Iranian asymmetric capabilities, where traditional allies refuse to support American operations, and where expensive American platforms sit impotent against cheap, intelligent Iranian strategy. The implications will reshape Middle Eastern security, global naval operations, and international perceptions of American power for decades. If this analysis helped you understand what's really happening beyond the propaganda, hit that like button and share this video with everyone who needs to see the truth. Subscribe and turn on notifications because we'll continue covering this crisis as it develops, and the mainstream media won't tell you what happens next. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are we witnessing the end of American naval dominance? Let's build this community of informed viewers who refuse to accept establishment narratives. The truth is out there, and together we're finding it. Stay informed, stay skeptical, and I'll see you in the next video.